Hi everybody, welcome to Best of British Blackwell. Today I am going to be cooking up this beautiful grass-fed Bavette steak that was sent to me by the guys at iDevour. You may have seen in my last video I did an unboxing to show the meat that came in. Now we're actually going to start cooking it. Bavette I've cooked before, you may have seen on my videos I've cooked it before. I've done a few Instagram reels that have been quite successful on that. It's a steak that people seem to be scared to cook. In fact, you shouldn't be. It's a lovely step into cooking steak if you're not used to doing that, because it's a relatively cheap cut. Keep that under your breath, because the price will start to rocket as people start to realise just how easy it is to cook and how diverse it is as a meat. But it's wonderful because it's a really cheap cut that you can cook hot and fast and get a beautiful taste out of. But you do have to remember some secrets to cooking Bavette, which is around the grain of the meat, which we'll go into in a little bit more detail. So first of all, we're going to cut these open, we're going to get it out of the packet, we're going to trim it down a little bit. I'm also really excited to be able to be cooking again using my lovely Savanac knives. And the guys at Savanac have just released their 2024 barbecue range, which is an update on the range that I've got. They've taken on board a lot of the feedback and advice that customers have given them. They're very good at that, and they've now released that range. So have a look at the link down below to go and have a look at those knives. Fully customizable. Can't recommend them enough. I've worked with them now for a couple of years and the guys are just spot on. So, you know, you get yourself a decent butcher and a decent knife, you're cooking, literally. Come over and let's have a look and make a start. So I have got two cameras set up here. I do apologise in advance. I'm filming one set of videos for Insta and one set of videos for YouTube. So here we go. So we've got about 1.7 kilos of this Bavette steak here, or flat iron steak, or skirt steak, whatever you want to call it really. You'll see it advertised as a few different things, but essentially it is a Bavette steak. It's a very flat piece of meat. So how have we got it here? It's beautiful, brilliant. It's almost portioned up for me, that's wonderful. So this has already been trimmed up really nicely. All I'm going to do is run around with the boning knife, just minding not to cut my fingers, and I want to get the rest of this silver skin out. I have to say, this has been to whoever's trimmed this up, the guys at iDevour. They've done an excellent job, because there's just this tiny little bit on here. The trick to trimming this out is, as you can see, I'm no expert. You're not going to get all of it off with there being no kind of meat loss, but avoiding as much meat loss as possible. And as you can see, you know, just one little tiny layer here. This can be another thing which can sometimes put people off of buying the Bavette steak, is if they've had a Bavette in the past and they've not took this silver skin off, it can get a little bit chewy. So I suppose that can contribute to some people thinking, no, I won't bother with that. But you really, as long as you've got the time, I mean, look, this isn't taking very long, or you could even ask your butcher to do it for you. Most decent butchers will trim this off anyway. As long as you get rid of this, you're dealing with an absolutely wonderful, tender, lovely piece of steak. I just want to get rid of any of this white looking or silver looking skin, okay? That's the aim here. So now we've got our trimming done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer the meat onto a flat baking tray. And this is not for cooking purposes, this is going to be for seasoning purposes. So I just don't like to make too much of a mess. We're going to get it onto the tray. Okay, onto the tray, and then we're going to season it up here. I am using some of the Low and Slow Mighty Mustard Dry Rub, which is here. I find this beautiful for this type of meat. I like the fact that the mustard and the salt in here works so well with the beef. I don't put any other seasoning on here at all. And this is why I use the baking tray, so I don't lose too much of my rub, and any rub that is kind of not doesn't end up on the meat is in the tray, and I can kind of double dip it if you like. So we go ahead and we season all this up. We get the other steak from underneath, and we just make sure these are perfectly seasoned. As you can see, I'm not trimming these down. They're going to be cooked whole like this and served whole like this. That's why it's important you get some of the silver skin off, because the silver skin will start to tighten this steak up and it will start to kind of fold up on the grill. So we get this beautifully seasoned. So I'm going to make up some lovely pickled sweet red onions. This is really, really simple. We get some white wine vinegar into a pot here. That's about enough. And then we get a couple of spoonfuls of our caster sugar. 2 nice big spoonfuls in there. Give it a little bit of a mix. Take our lovely knife and we will chop this lengthways as thin as we can go, really, just so that we can get some beautiful thin strips of red onion. You want to be doing this a couple of hours before you want to use these. I've seen people put them in a saucepan and heat them up. I don't find you need to do that at all. These just go in there, make sure they're covered, and we are going to use that as a lovely accompaniment to our Bavette steak. So with this dish, we're not going too complicated with this today. We're going to let the Bavette do the work of giving us all the flavour, but we still need some good stuff to go with it. So I'm just going to go nice and simple and just prepare a salad. I've got a lovely loaf over here with some lovely bread, so we can make some nice kind of sandwiches if you like. I do like to keep things nice and simple with the salad. I do like to use the little gem lettuce, which is excellent at this time of year. And I do like to throw some kind of baby leaf in there as well. You know, this time of year, obviously it's relatively cheap as well, but I love to zhuzh my salads up a little bit by adding a couple of extra bits and pieces. And you can't go wrong with these little sweet piquant peppers. So they're not going to blow your head off. They're a really kind of sweet pickled pepper, if you like. Try saying that very quickly. And I also love using this iDevour as well, which is basically just blitzed up char grilled peppers. It really adds a wonderful kind of addition to the salad. Also, I struggle to get my kids to eat these because they think they're going to be spicy and peppery, but here they get their veg out of there by kind of disguising it, if you like. I'm also going to roast up a little bit of beetroot as well for some colour. And then we're going to serve this Bavette just with this salad, maybe a few potatoes or something. But yeah, let's chop this salad up. I know there's all these old wives' tales about chopping up lettuce leaves with knives and so on. I don't believe in those at all. I just chop this little gem up into shreds, really, and then when I start to get down to the root a little bit, I just chop around the side, taking a little bit more off. And then that's good to me. That's the first part of that. I like to then get this straight into the bowl. And for me, the key with salads and keeping them exciting is making sure there's layers to it. So I like to make sure that we're building the layers as we go and that there's flavour on each layer. So here is where I add my first kind of surprise layer, if you like. This is a nice big handful of crispy onions. Next item for me is the tomatoes, so we don't need to go too fancy with the tomatoes. We put these into quarters. Get all of those in. Don't worry, we will mix this around a little bit later. Next thing for me is the cucumber. I like to keep the cucumber nice and fresh by leaving it in the kind of plastic wrap. I'm not that much of a fan of plastic wrap, but when it comes to cucumber, it does help to keep it quite fresh. And my trick with these is to half them and half them again, so you get decent quarters in them. Some people might find that annoying, but when you've got young kids, getting them to eat relatively healthily and salads can be a bit of a nightmare. But if you can pass them a quarter of a cucumber rather than a huge kind of what they see as a huge slice of cucumber, it helps a little bit. We're going to go in there with our cucumber as well. We will mix this up a little bit. So we just get this into our bowl. Now we're going to go in with some of our kind of baby leaf lettuce. Just get that in there. Good handful. This goes down to nothing, and again, the kids love this kind of stuff. And then to finish off for now, because I'm not going to complete the whole thing now, we're going to get a drizzle of olive oil in there. Very good for you. And we're going to get a nice drizzle of balsamic in there as well. And then we just put that to one side, and that's pretty much one of our sides done. I'm going to prep these little peppers up now. So these peppers here, really, you can add them to your salad if you want, or, oh, that's very clever, they've got a little device in here which helps you get them out, but actually getting that device out can be a little bit awkward as well. So the way I tend to do this is I get a little sharp knife and just get a couple out. What I like to do is just put them on some kitchen roll so that they that soaks up most of the oil, and you don't need lots of these. But what I do like to do is chop them down nice and fine. Again, I don't mind eating these whole, but again, you've got young kids that are not as adventurous at trying new things, or just need to be introduced to flavours gently. That's the best way of doing it. Chop it down nice and fine. What I also do is, my kids love pickles as well, so I got some little sandwich pickles. I'm going to chop that and I'm going to combine these together. The sweetness and the vinegary, sweetness of the peppers and the vinegar from the pickles here make a wonderful flavour combination. So again, just pat them off a little bit, get the worst of the oil off, and then all we want to do is give those a fine dice. And again, using this lovely tiny Savanac chef's knife, literally knife through butter, or a knife through peppers, should I say. I'm not a classically trained chef, so you can see my chopping skills are not perfect, but at the end of the day, whose are, unless you are a classically trained chef, my advice is just go nice and slow. We don't need to be chopping at 1,000 miles an hour and losing a digit. Just chop these up as thin as you want them. This is about the level I'll get away with my little girls, and my wife to some extent, because she's not that too keen on the peppers. Now we come in with our sandwich gherkins. Gonna take quite a big handful of those, so about 4 in total. My hands are clean. Make sure you do clean your hands before you go delving into a pickle jar. And all we need to do here is, again, leave them lengthways like that. Chop them lengthways first. Look at this nice sharp knife. Everything stays on the board and hardly anything moves. Makes it nice and easy to flip these around and then go across like this. And at the end of the day, there you've got a nice, almost sweet and sour pickle and pepper relish, if you like. It's very close to a relish. The other thing I've got here is some beetroot. I like the earthiness of beetroot, and I also love the colour that it brings into the dish. I'm just going to top and tail these. One there, one off the bottom. Just makes it easier to cut them later when they're cooked. And the way we're going to cook these is really simple. We're going to basically steam them on the barbecue. So we're going to put one here, and what we're going to do is get some rapeseed oil in there. Nice and simple, nice big glug of that. And then we get some salt. Almost like a giant jacket potato. There's one. And we do the same with the second one. There. Our oil. Salt. Wrap it up like a parcel. Ready for the barbecue. Okay, so we've done all our prep. Now it's time to start cooking. Hopefully you can see that I'm getting my coals up to temperature now. But also what you should be able to see is that I've got the beetroots directly on the coals, and I've got a couple of jacket potatoes just towards the back there keeping warm. I'm using the Weber Master Touch today. I find this really good for nice hot and fast cooking. And I'm going for indirect heat. So I've got my coals pretty much stacked up on just one side of the grill, which is incredibly hot. And I've got a nice warm area at the back here keeping those potatoes warm. Okay, so as you can see, we've got this really hot now. We're going to go on with the first steak, which we have applied some oil to, so it doesn't stick. Oops, wrong way. Let's get it on the grill like that. Now, the fact that I've got my pitters on here probably tells you that it isn't going to take very long for this to cook. That's the beauty of cooking Bavette steak. You cook it hot and fast. Next one's going straight on next to it, just trying to make sure they don't overlap. The other good thing about this steak as well is you don't necessarily need to worry too much about an internal temperature. You can cook this rare, medium, medium well, medium rare, whatever you want really, and it's still going to taste good. You just need to be careful how you cut it. We want to make sure that we're cutting it across the grain rather than with the grain. And what I mean by that is, as you can probably see here, there's a grain running along this meat. You never cut a bavette with the grain, you cut it across the grain, and that's how you end up with a beautiful steak. This really isn't going to take long. Look at the searing and the charring on that. That is a thing of beauty, isn't it? I'm using just a little bit of my canola oil spray just to help me and ensure that the meat doesn't stick to the grills. This is going to be about 6 or 7 minutes to cook, and then we'll be done. Okay, so we're about 7 or 8 minutes into this cook, and I can tell by the kind of density of the meat there, it's changed in texture. It's toughened up a little bit, which is fine. Now I'm just going to take it onto indirect heat for just a couple of minutes, and we're going to see how these beetroots got on. I think they're going to be okay. They're quite a resilient vegetable, but as you can see, the fire has been so fierce, it's actually burnt through the tinfoil there, but that's precisely why I left the skins on. So we're going to chop these up in a minute and just see how well they turned out. And here we go, in the glorious sunshine, this is the meal that we've created. So we have got our lovely bavette steak, which I'm going to get a close-up of when I cut into in a moment. We've got some jacket potatoes, and we've got those lovely roasted beetroot. Look at that colour that's come in there. Beautiful. The girls love the carrot sticks, so we've got some carrot sticks, and we've got some flatbreads and paninis for sandwiches. We've got the salad that we made earlier, which took us about 30 seconds. We've got our lovely pickled red onions. We've got our gherkins and our little pimiento peppers. And I knocked up a salsa with mango earlier as well. Big shout out to the guys at Jalapenos. I love their food. I love their jalapeno chutneys. I'll drop the link in below there. And we've just got our char grilled peppers and some horseradish as well to go with this. Lovely bit of meat from iDevour. Let's see how it cuts. Okie dokie, so here we go. This has been resting for a couple of minutes. As you can see, we've got a bit of moisture here, but it looks and smells lovely. So I'm going to go ahead and start cutting this across the grain. I'm using my lovely big bullnose steak knife from Savanac, and I'm cutting this into small strips. And hopefully you can see this is cooked down lovely. Now towards the outer edges where this meat is at its thinnest, it's going to be cooked kind of well done. But that, I'm absolutely fine with that because my daughters like the steak well done. But as we get into these bigger pieces and these thicker chunks as we get through the meat, it's going to be cooked to a more medium rare, which is fine. Anything goes with a bavette really, so you're all right. The moisture content, as you can see, is absolutely beautiful because we've got plenty of moisture in it. Now let me give this is the smaller piece that we had. Let me give this bigger piece a cut, and I'm going to cut it across me here, but I'm going to cut through the middle just so you can see that the bigger the piece you get, the more kind of medium it's going to be in the middle. And as you can see, lovely and juicy there. So really nice, and we're going to start dishing this up now. Okay, so we've served up now and the kids are eating. They you can see Poppy right by me here, she's just in the shot. She was just eating her steak and she absolutely loves it. This is what we've ended up with. If I'm being ultra critical, I've probably just had it on there for maybe a minute or two too long, so it's just gone beyond medium, but still the moisture content in it is absolutely stunning, so it's absolutely fine. It's really good, it's really tender, as long as you're cutting along and across that grain. Really juicy. Yeah, so the meat, it's got a really deep flavour to it. It's incredibly beefy, which I know sounds a really thing to say about beef, but this has got a real kind of deep beef texture to it. The crust around the outside by searing it really hot has helped as well. The rub that I put on from the guys at Low and Slow has worked really nice as well. We've got a kind of a mustardy undertone to it as well. The beetroot works incredibly well with this because you've got that kind of really nice deep beefy flavour, and then on the backdrop you've got the kind of earthy beetroot as well, which works really well. We just threw a couple of jacket potatoes in here which we've kind of shared amongst us, so you don't need any more than that really. You let the beef do the work on this recipe. It's been fantastic. Give the guys iDevour a check out. I've put their link below and it's in the comments box as well. Tell them Best of British Blackwell sent you, and we'll see you again next time.